Welcome to the International Literature Festival Dublin, brought to you by Dublin City Council with kind support from the Arts Council. Please take a moment to silence your mobile phone and identify your nearest emergency exit. Thank you and enjoy.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome to today's ceremony. Lord Mayor, Assistant Chief Executive of Dublin City Council, ambassadors, councillors, distinguished guests here in the room and those tuning in from around the world. I'm Rick O'Shea and I'm delighted to be presenting to you today the 29th winner ceremony for the Dublin Literary Award. What better place to be than here in Merrion Square Park in the heart of Dublin City, surrounded on all sides by our rich literary history. Not only is the park one of the finest and most intact examples of Georgian urban design, but it is just a stone's throw away from some of the most iconic literary locations in Ireland, including the childhood home of Oscar Wilde. For the third year, the award ceremony is hosted by the International Literature Festival Dublin here in Merrion Square Park. The festival runs through until the 26th of May, a real tribute to the ongoing literary legacy of Dublin, a proud designated UNESCO City of Literature. We'd like to take a moment to welcome our online audience who are joining us from around the world today for this special occasion and to acknowledge our ISL interpreter for the event, Aoife Harrington. In just a few moments, we'll hear from Dublin City Librarian Mairead Owens and from our Lord Mayor, Daithí de Rochta, who will reveal this year's winner. Before I do any of that, though, I'd like to acknowledge our judges who are here with us today and the extraordinary achievement it is to judge a prize like this. There is a long list of 70 books from 80 libraries in 35 separate countries around the world, and they've narrowed it down to a shortlist of 6, and today to one genuinely extraordinary winner. So please join me in a round of applause for our esteemed judges who are here today with us. Now, before introducing Dublin City Librarian Mairead Owens, let's hear from our shortlisted authors as they share with you what libraries mean to them.
Libraries are our cathedrals. That's where all the good stuff is held and protected.
I remember that I read all the books that were there, that I could find there, and they were the fundament of everything I am now.
Libraries, I feel, are the main way I've raised my kids, and I used to bring them to the library all the time and just soak them in that atmosphere of, follow your pleasure, read or watch or listen to whatever you come across.
Libraries have been the place that bring together people who really believe that books and reading and libraries themselves are really vital to the human experience.
Ever since I was a kid, libraries have been a home away from home. I remember Saturday afternoons going to the library and just taking out a giant stack of books, schlepping them home under the broiling hot sun, and it was totally worth it because every book is a world.
Where I live in Melbourne, we have a magnificent state library, the State Library of Victoria. Parts of Praiseworthy were written under its beautiful dome reading room.
Without further ado, let's crack on. Please welcome to the stage Dublin City Librarian Mairead Owens.
Thanks very much to Rick, and I have to say it's very difficult to follow that, and as City Librarian I think it's very heartening and inspiring. So Lord Mayor, our Chief Executive Richard Shakespeare, our Assistant Chief Executive Anthony Flynn, ambassadors, readers, councillors, lots of library colleagues and friends and readers, you're all very welcome here this morning. So on behalf of Dublin City Council, Bawathlum, Fáilte Cur Ribh Cóc, Chuig an Ócáid Speisialta Seo. I'm delighted to welcome you to the 29th Dublin Literary Award here in Merrion Square during the year's International Literature Festival Dublin with its rich programme of no less than 230 events. Over 29 years, the award has championed novels written in English or translated into English, nominated by library readers all over the world. The award has brought treasures to readers, expanding our frame of reference with the power to terrify us one minute and delight us the next. Each book may catapult us from the everyday into the fantastical realm, teetering on the edge of emotion and insight, developing our understanding of humanity and making sense of how we live our lives. Public libraries offer a safe space, a vibrant centre of learning and creativity, with digital downloads, e-books, public laptops and live programming, along with the more traditional space for books, newspapers, periodicals, DVDs and CDs. Libraries of the future will continue to support and enhance the ways we engage as communities and will assist us to navigate new forms of information as we make sense of society. Our daily lives are hugely demanding, so cultural services must be delivered in more innovative ways. Libraries offer dynamic community hubs that function as digital centres and social meeting spaces for children, students, adults, local community groups of all types. We librarians seek to create and curate collections, experiences and spaces for users, and in so doing to stimulate the imagination, encourage lifelong learning and reading. This gathering to award a writer is the manifestation of multiple reading experiences originating in communities of readers across the world, which have resulted in one book that kept coming to the top of the pile, as described by our non-voting chair, Professor Chris Marash. From a long list of 70 books, the judges picked a remarkable shortlist, exploring themes of discrimination, trauma, solitude and communism, and were nominated by public libraries in Jamaica, Australia, Germany, Romania and Canada. I'd like to thank Lucy Collins, Daniel Medin, Irenoso Okoji, Anton Herr, Ingun Schneidel and Chris Marash, and apologies if I've mispronounced some of the names, for your dedication to the task of selecting a strong shortlist that will keep us reading over the year. The Dublin Literary Award is significant in the yearly literary calendar. It is one of the many endeavours associated with Dublin as a UNESCO City of Literature. Any night of the week, across a variety of venues, including our city libraries, you can find yourself at a book launch, a play, a slam poetry session, or a panel discussion, tossing around the great dilemmas of our existence on this small island. We must acknowledge that our writing community is supported by national and local government, who understand the value of the creative field, providing grants, bursaries, training and prizes for writers to progress their work. They also understand the value of supporting global connections via our membership of the UNESCO Creative Cities Network. And I'm delighted to welcome in particular representatives from Abuja in Nigeria and Busan in Korea to our ceremony here today. We are a global village of storytellers with much to learn from each other. So, for 29 years, as we've said, Dublin City Council, through its libraries, has been at the helm of this award. It remains the most valuable prize in the world for a single work of fiction in English, transforming the lives of writers and translators, bringing them more recognition and allowing them to concentrate more freely on their craft. I wish to acknowledge with deep appreciation the support of the many partners who helped bring this award to fruition. Our colleagues at the International Literary Festival Dublin, in particular Yamé van Wylik, who has been more than patient with all of us in recent months, and her team, the DCC Arts Office and our hosts in the Parks Department, libraries all over the world, bookshops, publishers, embassies, and I have to say the library team here in the city have been amazing. So a final thank you to our UNESCO team, Anne-Marie Kelly, Linda Gilbraith and Catherine Neville. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mairead. Our international judging panel has had, to put it mildly, quite a challenging task selecting the winner from this year's shortlist of exceptional novels. Before we welcome the Lord Mayor of Dublin to the stage to announce this year's winner, let's remind ourselves of those 6 titles.
A mere copper of dubious extraction in his 30th year. The touch of her hand, not obviously like fire, but burning him all the same.
between the cover of birth and the cover of death, will create the great book of human suffering.
The prior's bright granite eyes are fixed on the peak. A perfect day for making landfall, he says, and Trian's heart leaps at the word.
Of course, the difference between exiles and my parents, in fact, the difference between me and my parents, is that my parents have a homeland to which they can return.
He likes the cold of Canada. Even though he was born in the tropics, he droops in the island's tropical heat.
Now, a ghostly windstorm from out of nowhere came more frequently, came to this place blowing dry leaves, burnt leaves, ash leaves.
It's one of the absolute joys of both presenting and being a spectator at this award ceremony is that there is one award to give away. It is incredibly important and we get straight to it. So the moment we have been waiting for to reveal this year's winner, can you please give a warm welcome to the patron of the award, the Lord Mayor of Dublin, Dáithí de Roiste. Lord Mayor, lovely to see you. How are you?
Díomh agus fáilte romh go léir go dtí an ócáid speisialta seo. As Lord Mayor of Dublin and as Rick says, as patron, it gives me great pleasure to announce this year's Dublin Literary Award winner. But first of all, I'd like to once again thank all of our judges who, for all their commitment in selecting the winner from a long list of 70 books. So we might just give them a big round of applause for the commitment. This is great. It's like being at the Oscars. Cuireann sé áthas orm. So I'm now very pleased to announce that the 29th Dublin Literary Award winner is Solenoid by Mircea Cartarescu.
Now, you're fantastic for keeping the round of applause going. Well done, because not every crowd manages to do that. Now, before I invite both Mircea and Sean to say a few words, we have a message from the library in Cluj in Romania who nominated Solenoid for the 2024 Dublin Literary Award.
With a history of more than 100 years, Octavian Goga Cluj County Library is one of the largest and most appreciated Romanian public library. Libraries play a very important role in Romanian society. The public libraries are not longer just places for reading or for study. They are welcoming spaces where members of the local community meet, work together, and find solutions to their problems. Mircea Cartarescu Solenoid is a unique literary work. It is an unforgettable and overwhelming reading experience. It is more than an introspection of thoughts. And, as Gabriel Liceanu said, once you read it, you stop being an ordinary reader. This award is a wonderful opportunity for us to show support and appreciation to all writers. And, from my knowledge, this will be the first time a Romanian public library contributes to an award being won by a writer.
Please give one more incredibly warm welcome to the stage to the winners of the 2024 Dublin Literary Award, Mircea Cartarescu and Sean Cotter.
Dear friends, today I have the extraordinary honor to receive a great literary prize in Dublin, a city on the mental map of every writer in the world, because every one of us owes something to Swift, to Yeats, to Joyce, and to many other great names of Irish literature. I will begin by offering my gratitude to those people who make the Dublin Literary Award possible. Its patron, Lord Mayor of Dublin, Dochi de Rosta, the Dublin City Council and its chief executive, Mr. Richard Shakespeare, and the Dublin City Librarian, Mairead Owens, and staff of Dublin City Libraries. I also thank my compatriots at the Octavian Goga Library in Cluj, who nominated me for this prize. I thank my editor, Will Evans, director of Deep Vellum, publisher of Solenoid, and Sean Cotter, the novel's translator. Last but not least, I thank the judges who selected Solenoid among all the many worthy texts in this year's contest. It is difficult for me to sum up 40 years of life in literature. For me, literature has been and will be an extended interior journal, an uninterrupted dialogue with myself. I've never written literature just to publish books. Books are only the final product of a process of self-knowledge and self-understanding. I've written literature so I can live inside it, so I can enjoy its sights, the chemistry of its words, the elasticity of its phrases, the purifying suffering of its moral dilemmas, and the contemplation of human beings to the depths of their depths. I pursued this end by studying the only human specimen I can view from within, myself. I am in the end a cartarescologist, the only one in the world. I have spent my life in the study of the anatomy, physiology, ethology, ethics, aesthetics, and metaphysics of a single human being. I have done so, however, in the hope that the tiny universe inside my cranium might reflect, as thou in a drop of dew, all of humanity, with its tragedies and sufferings, its triumphs and disasters, its insanity and wisdom, its heroes and its misery. The inner world, my subject for the past nearly 40 years, is the storehouse of our memories and the engine of everything that happens in society and history. My novel, Solenoid, that does not exist in isolation from the terrible problems we face in today's world. On the contrary, it gives them voice in parables and moral dilemmas written in the spirit of intellectual humanism, out of love for humanity, out of compassion and empathy for those who suffer today in the world. Unde malum, what is the source of evil, is the question that obsesses both my protagonist and also so many thinkers, both ancient and contemporary. Writers, as Rilke tells us, are banners on the top of the towers. They move long before anyone below feels the wind. In a similar manner, I believe that in some way, Solenoid contained a premonition of the horrors of our time. After its composition came the war in Ukraine, the tragedy of Gaza, the rout of human values in the world of social networks, and the ascension of artificial intelligence. Like you, I feel the tensions and conflicts that put our world in danger today. I feel them acutely, as though the shifting political map were tattooed on my own skin. I deplore with all my powers the new eruption of madness and violence in a world under ever-increasing threat. I plead with my weak voice for the defense of human rights, for resistance, both cultural and artistic, against the forces of chaos and destruction. We have precious things to defend: democracy, tolerance, the spirit of skepticism, artistic inspiration, all that makes it possible in our world to breathe freely. I thank you all with all my heart.
Good afternoon. With respect and with gratitude, I salute the Lord Mayor of Dublin, Dáil Rosta, the Dublin City Council and its Chief Executive, Mr. Richard Shakespeare, the Dublin City Librarian, Marita Owens, and the staff of the Dublin City Libraries. It is a great joy to be with you here today and to accept, alongside my friend Mircea, the Dublin Literary Award. I feel very fortunate to have the honor of translating a great writer, and to be published by a great press, Will Evans Deep Vellum. I second the values of Mircea's speech, and I second its concerns. And I want to draw a connection between the novel's concerns and the solutions it proposes in family. Because the book's translation owes much to the supportive family that I am very fortunate to have. The Dublin Literary Award stands out among literary prizes because, as you know, the nominations come from librarians, as Solenoid was nominated by the Octavian Goga Library in Cluj, Romania. The novel includes a librarian as a major character, and librarians loom large in my family. My mother ended her academic career as a librarian. My first job in college was in the school library. And my mother-in-law spent all of her career in libraries, beginning driving the bookmobile in Rochester, New York, kind of a van going out to these places that don't have a building, and eventually becoming executive director of the internet system linking all libraries in the Northeast of the United States. And I'm struck to find myself here in Dublin now, and not simply because of my name, which, as some of you have noticed, indicates a family connection some 2 centuries ago. I am thinking rather of 2 round numbers. The first is that 30 years ago was the first time I went to Romania, 1994, as a teacher with the US Peace Corps. And exactly 20 years ago yesterday, I was married. As it happens, just 6 months after I published my first translation. My fascination with translation has developed along 2 parallel questions: how to connect great Romanian literature with literature in English, and how to connect the complicated human beings who decided to live together in one small house. My wife and now our 2 girls share me with Romania as I spend weeks there in research, followed by months in my study furiously typing. And today they're sharing me with you. Solenoid, as Mircea explained, was written prior to the pandemic. In contrast, it was my pandemic practice, the translation of it. It was even my pandemic salvation. The novel asks, among other questions, whether the illusions of literature provide an escape from our daily confinements. While translating the novel, all I wanted was escape, as I worked there, sharing the dining room table with my 2 surly daughters, each of us wearing headphones, each of us glowering into our laptops. And indeed, word by word and sentence by sentence, translation brought me into intimate contact with an extraordinary, dazzling novel, the beauty of which allowed me to endure our forced family proximity with a little bit more grace. The book's beauty was actually not an escape, but a balm to my suffering and an aid to my love. It's not too much to say that translating Solenoid helped me recover my humanity. In the end, Solenoid asks us to move beyond the illusions of literature and to choose community. The narrator burns his manuscript and saves his child. My translation also drove me more firmly into the arms of community. Not only my family, but precisely the difficulty of the book drove me to ask questions of the dedicated and tightly knit Romanian translation community. As much my truly dear English language colleagues as those in other languages, especially French, Norwegian, Spanish, and Dutch. When I think of the process of translating Solenoid, I celebrate their company and their collaboration in bringing Romanian literature into the wider world. Romanian translation has brought me closer to a fascinating culture and to people whom I love. I hope that some of that love comes across for the book's readers. I thank Mircea for writing this book. I thank my family for their support while I translated it. And I thank you all for this award.
I was going to ask you to show your appreciation for them one more time, but you've already beaten me to that, and that's fine. You can be sure to get your copy here at the festival's bookshop on site or at your local library, wherever you are in the world, and enjoy this extraordinary piece of literature. Thank you to everybody who joined us in person here and online as well. Mircea and Sean will be in conversation with Alex Clark tomorrow at 6 o'clock as part of the International Literature Festival Dublin for a more in-depth conversation around Solenoid. You can visit ilfdublin.com to book your in-person ticket, and the conversation will be streamed at a future date. You're all welcome to stick around and enjoy the music by Glasshouse and the refreshments, sadly not for everybody watching online. But once again, thank you so much for joining us and good afternoon.